2, 3, 4. A Beacon of Hope is a weekly podcast that shines a light on the human spirit and explores the power of hope in our lives. Join me, Will Fleming, as I talk to people from all walks of life about where they find hope and how they use it to navigate life's challenges.
Be good, be safe, and be happy.
On this episode of A Beacon of Hope, we chat to Ryan O'Connor, host of the Stag Roar podcast. Ryan's journey of resilience and hope will inspire you. Despite his heartbreak, he has shown unwavering love for his daughter, becoming her beacon of hope. Ryan is a father, stepfather, and optometrist. So tune in to hear how Ryan overcomes tough situations with the power of hope. Okay, folks, I am here with my pal, Ryan. How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm reasonably good. That's how I sort of keep trucking. I'll focus on what I can control. Listen to a great guy, Aaron Walsh, who's the mental skills coach for the Chiefs and now Scotland. He's done a bit of work with softball New Zealand as well. A good acronym of WIN. It's actually what's important now. As soon as I heard that, I started writing that into my, it's not daily journal, but most day journal, to go with my little memento mori ideas, yeah.
Love that. That's going to be my fourth question. Let me start with these three.
Yeah.
What is something that you are most proud of in your life?
I think it stems from being lucky enough to develop a why that I pursued before I developed it. So at 12, seeing optometry as a way to do science experiments and sort of get good outcomes and help people, to be able to follow through that dream and become an optometrist. And then my older brother sent me a couple of YouTube videos while I was sitting around on the couch waiting to work. And one of those was how to describe who you are and what you do. And it was out of that I came up with improving people's lives to help them see the world to the best of their ability. And it's really been quite awesome to live through that for the last 9 years ever since doing that. So I think I'm quite proud of that, and having something that guides me that's narrow as my profession and as wide as what I do in my day-to-day life and the people that I interact with.
What is something that you believe in strongly and why?
That goes to what's important now. If I continue on the path, it will happen. If I continue to do what I'm supposed to do good by others, then those things that are sort of rewarding or satisfying or, give you that warm feeling inside, like the dreams that you think about that well you up, not the sort of positions, and the people that are part of that, they will come out and you'll be there in the future with those people having a great time and looking back going, that was awesome. So that's my belief in strongly and what I think about often.
What is one of the biggest challenges you've faced and how has it changed you as a person?
It's ongoing and I guess it will be ongoing until my daughter reaches the age of 18. So not being part of her life every day is in a physical sense. Technology is wonderful. I get to talk to her pretty much every day. I separated from her mother when she was 2. My good friend said to me, you've just got to figure out how to do this. He said, what is the most important thing? And it was that. So you've got to try and do everything so that happens. He was amazing. He gave me his house every fortnight to crash at. They weren't always there. And that's been able to allow me to make that physical connection with my daughter. And I've moved from Hawke's Bay to Tokoroa again to foster that physical connection. But yeah, it's going to continue to be a challenge. She's about to start school, primary school. She's going to be a teenager with separated parents. And it's going to be a continual dedication. And again, remind me that's what's important. So yeah, that's both a challenge and also quite a guiding thing as well, which is, like most things, we've talked about it plenty of times, dichotomies and yins and yangs and blessings and curses. Yeah, that's one of those things. So, yeah.
Is love enough, bro?
I think love is out there, and lots of things are cliches because they're true. Love is fleeting, and that's just my experience, not just in the relationship with Billy's mother, but previously. But then love is so healing, and it's amazing where you find it, and it's amazing how it gives you strength. I guess growing up from the generation of my parents, the end of the baby boomers, the expression of love was that sort of providing and instilling confidence, and it providing that, it allowed us in our generation to think about it more deeply. It allowed us to get educations, be in careers that we're at home, be able to think, contemplate, and then be able to better express. Definitely my emotional vocabulary has never been strong, but it has improved. And to have your daughter want to hug you all day, every day that she's with you, and tell you she loves you, and not want to let you go at nighttime and tell you she loves you, it's pretty humbling. And that first time I held her, saying to her that, I'll always love you and always be there for you, to then every time you interact with her, share that love. And then the same with other people in your life, like your parents again, your significant other, and now my partner's child as well, to slowly foster a step-parent love is really fascinating. Yeah, we get to drive to school together, and it's the 40 minutes. Actually, I had a friend a couple of years ago at the start of lockdown. She drove from Hamilton down to Hawke's Bay, and she said to me, it's amazing the conversations you can have with an 8-year-old girl when you're stuck in a car together. And I'm currently living that, and it's fantastic. Yeah, it warms you up.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I mean, I asked that because, in your field of eyes,
yeah,
that's just a random way of saying it because optometry, I guess, is the official way. You'll see things like low vision.
Yeah.
And it makes you ask questions like, that's so unfair. There's plenty of things in life that are really unfair. And I guess one of the things I'm trying to explore is, what's that about?
Well, the reason I'm a little bit delayed to this meeting with you is because I've been part of a pediatrics meeting. And I had a case last year that just the things happen and are out there, and you almost hope it never happens to you, but you just happen to be the person to be there at that time. During the week, I'd had an Instagram message from a person who's I was Instagram friends with, and I'd seen their children in Tokoroa, and they asked me about some double vision. Had I seen it previously? And I was like, definitely not. And I said, don't waste time on this, get in. And they ended up in Starship, and not 2 days later, I had a young 3-year-old girl come in, and all of a sudden she'd had double vision. You do some drops to check the prescription, and that takes 45 minutes to kick in, and saw that it was like over 60% chance of being a tumor. Called the ophthalmologist, and he basically said, yeah, you're right, get them into neuroimaging. And so that day, late Friday afternoon, I took them to the Taupo Hospital, to the Rotorua eye surgeons, to the Hamilton eye surgeons, and radiographers up to Starship as well. So 2 people in a week were in Starship with their young children for eye tumours. And then I had a friend message me like a weekend later being like, I've got double vision. I was like, mate, go to the doctor right now, get yourself to Dunedin. Everyone's okay at the moment, but to get the phone call on the Monday from I think it was either the pediatrician or the person's doctor, and read through the report from radiography, and I just had to read it out there before, and my voice was breaking when I caught up with the patient recently again, to have the photos of my daughter in the room and see this wee girl, she's been through a lot in the last 4 months, lots of chemotherapy, 28 days of radiation, still a chemotherapy to go, and get upset again at another health professional trying to help her, but just examine, and she's lost her hair and it's swollen and stuff. It was, her mum cried and said thank you, and again, back to that emotional intelligence thing, I managed to hold back the tears, but to try to get words out and to try and say something of comfort was pretty hard. It was just, in something like that, both of us were grateful that it happened, and the wee girl was still there. And the same for my friend on Instagram. He's just moved his life from Tukurora to Te Awamutu, and again, it like reevaluates what's important now. It's unreal, And talking with the ophthalmologist in Rotorua, 20 years of being an ophthalmologist, he just said, like, these types of things are never fair. He said it's always the person, and like exactly like you say, you go, why has this happened? And unfortunately, there's not often an answer to it. It is heartbreaking and crushing, and at the same time, you're in a weird way, you're grateful to be a part of it and witness that moment of like, shit, we've got to go now. We've got to do this. Yeah.
And I guess one of the things that I've thought about is a nice way I've tried to think about it, and maybe I've hoped that something like this is true, is that, the shit has to go to everyone at some stage, and you're all going to get it. We're all going to get it. And it might be on your first day or your last day, but it's got to be shared equally. And you'd like to think the opposite is also true, that the love would be too, but it's really, we live in quite a logical world, and it's really hard to believe that sometimes.
Mate, a recent podcast sort of gave a stat that sort of slaps you around the face, and it's by these guys based in Tauranga called PracMed, who provide first aid and trauma training, so give people their first aid certificates, but a really good format. Simon's ex-military, and a lot of the team are ex-service people. And he brought up the stat that on the average civilian will experience 1.5 or might even be 1.8 critical care experiences. So like you say, we've all got our day where you might want to be prepared for it, because traumatic experiences will change your life. And they in their profession as trainers, they're hoping to equip people with the skills they never have to use. But they've got two types of clients: the ones that recognize it, that they may need to use it, and the ones that come to them, which is the sad part, that regret not being prepared. And that's again, like, we all in the theme of your podcast hope that we don't have to go through that. But back to you saying, if we live in a logical world, logic says that one day, maybe 2 days, and those 2 days are going to have ripple effects.
And you kind of, I guess, sharing that story about your daughter, on some level, these are traumas that we carry. I never really thought about it like that. I kind of thought trauma was, most of us might consider really heavy stuff, but I kind of start thinking about it like Jimmy Hunt talks about. We're on a continuum, and whether it be privilege or the way that you are innately born, you're somewhere on this scale. And maybe it's like a money bank account. If it's full, you can take a heap of losses and you just take it out of the bank. But if it's your inner being, you can quickly get down the bottom of the ladder, right? And all those little traumas, they do add up. And I think we call it collectively mental health, but I've never been that comfortable with it, because I don't think most people know what that means, including myself. You know, it's a made up word to try and describe kind of real time feelings and how much you're carrying on your back at that time. And, you know, the Ryan that goes into a meeting with a client and all of a sudden you see this little person that reminds you of your little person and all of the things. So it's like everything all at once.
Yeah, my diabetes story I wrote is again like someone who's wanting to start a family, enjoy the things that I've been lucky enough to do. And you look at the condition of their eyes and know a little bit about their diabetic history. And you think that if they are successful in conceiving and having their child, the pregnancy process is not going to be too good given their diabetes. And like an ophthalmologist said to me, they may not grow up to see their children grow up. Now, whether that's literally seeing their children grow up because their retina, the inside of their eye, is so damaged, or because that's equivalent to the rest of their organs, whether they will physically survive the growing up of their children or have an early mortality. Like, again, that's one of those like heartbreaking moments, and knowing about different ways of diabetes control and how people can live relatively regular blood glucose and insulin dosing and things. Like, it's technical, but there's enough people out there to prove that that's possible. And then to see the tragic cases and go, man, I wish there could have been something to be done when you're first diagnosed or a couple of years into it. Like, because the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes is a life sentence. And again, like we're talking about, was like, what is trauma? That's traumatic. You know, you've got to accept a part of your body is not working properly. You're not dead, but this is something you've got to go through the grief process for, accept and act upon. And you see that plenty, that grief process hasn't been fully fulfilled. The acceptance is not there. I think that was one of the most valuable things we got taught in optometry school is the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief, and the aim is acceptance. As soon as COVID lockdowns happened, I was like, this is Kubler-Ross, leaving my job and here in Tokoroa and having 2 months to work it out, and same in Hawke's Bay, 3 months to work it out, and wondering why I was angry, sad, depressed, manic, and then fine, and then going round and round in circles of these feelings and going, this is a major change in my life, and I'm grieving. My ego wants to stay the person that it was for the last year or 2 years or whatever, and you're saying, no, we're going to be something different now. And it goes, hey, nah, that's too hard. I didn't want to change. I was just getting comfortable here.
What are the 5 steps that you were referring to?
Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Yeah. And if you know that and you go through a grieving situation, you'll see it pop up. If you see someone going through a grieving situation, you'll all of a sudden won't take it personally, the behavior, because you'll see that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that like stripped right back could be just called shit scared, right? That's what it sounds like you were describing. And I guess my follow-up question is, what's your relation with being shit scared? What's your relationship with fear, with comfort of forward planning versus the necessity of forward action?
Yeah, this is timely chat, mate. I've got things going on all over the shop, parenting agreements, still relationship property agreements, trying to find a next step in career, the plans I had not going where they wanted, and the universe almost being like, sort some shit out, find the right bloody road. Unfortunately, this one's a dead end, mate. How do I fit in the world? You've got to tidy out those past things and being able to notice your unease, remove yourself for a moment and go, the unease is because the next steps are they need to take time. And unfortunately, we're going through it right now. So keep going through it right now. Is there anything you can do? No. So you've done all you can do. Keep going through it. It's quite good with exercise, especially ultra running. I can see why Goggins and Cam Hanes are animals, because that is what you got to do. Just like, keep going. It'll all end. You'll get there one way or another, and so you just got to keep going through it. And you got to meet your responsibilities while you're at it.
This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. Campfire Studios is an impact-led organisation amplifying the voices of Māori and Pasifika communities via podcasting and video content. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. I like what you said at the top, that at the start of the podcast, you said a friend said, you've just got to make it work, and I like that. That there's no right way sometimes, that it's just a muddy pond and you've just got to get across.
Yeah.
You know? And the other thing I thought when you were talking about ultra running is, what are you harnessing in that? Obviously there's a fitness part, which I think most people would think, wow, that's pretty cool. But is there something deeper there?
I think when you look at ultra running and you go, it's a fitness part, you go, that's a bit much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you go, is that fitness, or is that that's probably too, there's levels, and that's maybe too many.
If you read David Goggins' book, I mean, in David Goggins' books, he clearly states that it's not fitness. These are running to the abyss and back again. And what he's found is, his set of skills, right, that allows him to navigate the muddy pond. What is that for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't class myself as an ultra runner. I class myself as a fit person who has run some longer distances. So I've done one official ultra, and then 2 weeks ago, my friend who was going to do his first ultra, he had a much better running base. He did a series of half marathons and marathon, and now he's doing a 50. Whereas I was like, during lockdown, what Cameron Hanes and David Goggins do, that looks pretty cool. I've been inspired by people like Steve Gurney and Nathan Fave, so maybe I'll do that. I entered one, and it hurt a lot, but I finished it, and it was I cried going down the hill into the finish line. So then 2 weeks ago, my mate needed to do 4 hours running, and my other friend and I were going to do the Tongariro crossing. I said, come with. And he said, I need to do 4 hours though. I was like, oh, well, instead of us running just the crossing, which is 19 Ks, we can go over the hill to the spot and back again, which is 26 Ks. That should take us 4 hours. And going down the other side, the rain started to clear. I got really excited and slipped. And then my mate was like, you're running quite fast, Ryan. I said, yeah, it's great, isn't it? And then I was like, oh, no, it's not great. And my knee started to tighten up. So then I had to grit some pain going back. But then I made it. And it was sore for the whole 13 Ks back. But you've got this weird thing in your brain where it doesn't get any sorer, and sometimes it gets better. And when it gets better and you keep moving, then you knock off more of that distance and there's less to go and you're closer to the finish line. And then when it is bad, you just kind of keep moving as well as you can. And that's still getting you closer to the finish line. And then all of a sudden you're close to the finish line, and it's not, you've just dealt with, say, what was there to go, 4 Ks ago. So you've just dealt with 9K. So that's like, you're well over halfway now. And so you've just done it, so you can continue to do it. And then you do it, and then you finish, and you go, fuck me, I did that. And that's the same thing as we're talking about, like, when it's hard, like, what can I do to keep going through this and get me to that finish line? Simple, analogous, and that's why the Goggins book's bestsellers, and the Cameron Hanes book is a bestseller, because it's relatable to life.
When you said you crossed the finish line of the first ultra and you cried, what were they tears of?
You were talking about pride. It was pride because of not living with my daughter. She was there, which was awesome. and she got to see me do it. So that was cool. My parents were there. It was in Christchurch, and they were there to support me. I had made a commitment to see her, I think, fortnightly, which meant driving from Waipokoro to Te Kaupata. So I'd done it. I'd made it work. In the meantime, I'd also done the series of training. I'd met someone, I've got someone who loves me again, love is possible again. And they were supporting me despite us not knowing what our future was. Now, we have a future together now, and we live together now. It's great. But yeah, at that time, it was like, again, the theme of this, some hope based on some achievement. So yeah, that was pretty overwhelming. Plus, I was bloody sore, both knees, both hips. Yeah, and I was going down a hill, so it was very painful.
I hope when I go back and edit this, or when people listen, that it makes sense. That actually the lesson for me here, and the bit that makes me feel happy, is that it all kind of fits together. We have this creative in us that makes it fit. You can look at it through the lens of you just went for a long ass run. Or you can look at it through the lens of you were running because you needed to, Yeah. And because you had to. And I really love that idea that there's actually no choice, you had to run. And that maybe that's where I'm going to kind of tie it all together, is your knees are going to hurt, but so what? I also think where the opposite to hope, as I've learned it, is hopelessness. And I'm like, man, imagine being hopeless in hopelessness, where you didn't think that anything was worth it, that it wasn't worth to take that next step. And plenty of people do, Plenty of people do. We put it under that mental health umbrella, but I think part of the challenge is there's not enough people saying that, hey man, when you cross that line, you'll feel life, It'll be worth it. So that's my hope, I guess, is that that we can tie that all together, and I think I know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful, man. Love it.
One of the beauties of us being podcasters, you've done 300 plus episodes. When we text each other, it's like we're OG podcasters. One of the kind of gifts of that is there will be a long line of podcasts for our kids to go back and have a listen. And if your daughter listens to this one day, as when she gets older, as all of our kids inevitably will, what do you want to say to her about how you're feeling right now, about what you shared?
The thing that keeps me going with her is I hope that she realizes I was always there, even though I wasn't there. And her not being there was the best for her and for her mum. And I was always there. I was always steady and reliable. And I didn't need to physically be there because I was always there. That's what keeps me going forward and keeping on doing the things I have to do.
It's beautiful, bro. There's one more favor I'd like to ask. I recorded with my mum before she passed, right? And this is partly why I'm doing this podcast, because I get to kind of go back to those interviews, see if I can weave them in somewhere. And at the end of this podcast, she has the last word, she says,
Be good, be safe, and be happy.
Then I say, okay, Mum, we're going to wrap it up here. All right, Mama, we'll stop there, eh?
Yeah, okay. All right.
And I should have said, I love you, because I would like to have recorded her saying that back. So can you just say to your daughter you love her so that it is captured somewhere on the internet?
Billy, I love you.
It'll be a ringtone.
Yeah.
We can upload that to AI and she'll have you forever. Ryan, normally we talk about podcasts, but today we talked, I think, a lot about everything. But can you just share with my audience your podcast and what you talk about and that type of stuff?
You made the Stag Roar. It's about life less ordinary, and the image of the stag is the monarch of him standing, usually on a cliff face or a spur, roaring, letting people know that they are the monarch of the area. And so many people out there living extraordinary lives, less ordinary lives. And I hope that the podcast gives them a platform to let people know about the amazing things they're doing. And even though their story might be humble and they feel humble, that actually it can help to inspire and instill a sense of somebody else can live a less ordinary life too.
Beautiful, bro. And people can find that on all podcast platforms?
All podcast platforms, mate.
At the beginning, you said the WIN acronym, what's important now? Answer that for me. What is important right now for you?
What's important now for me is being true to that why, that I want to improve people's lives, help them see the world to the best of their abilities. And so that's instilling confidence, instilling love, instilling support in those around me. And I believe that will come back. And I always get glimpses of it, and it's weird. You'll have shit days, and then you'll get that glimpse of it coming back to you. And so that's what's important, just staying true, keeping on going, and it comes back again.
Beautiful, man. Well, until we check in again on this ever-going friendship that involves microphones and podcasting and pondering life deep, appreciate your time as always, bro.
Beautiful. Thanks, Will. Legend.
2, 3, 4. Thank you for tuning in to this frequency of hope in our podcast today. If you found value from this episode and want to hear more, I would love it if you could follow, subscribe, and rate our show. By doing so, you will increase the frequency of the beacon of hope. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, please take a moment to hit the follow or subscribe button and leave a rating and review. I truly appreciate your support and feedback, and it helps us make our podcast even better. Thank you.
Be good, be safe, and be happy. Yeah. Sounds like that song, doesn't it? Be happy.
All right, Mama, we'll stop there, eh?
Yeah, okay. All right.